Cayennes of all generations are known to commonly suffer with issues related to the sunroof drains, or at least that's what I've come to understand in looking up a damp problem I have with this car. This is actually a 2013 Porsche Cayenne 958.1. It's a 3 litre diesel and it's equipped with the full panoramic roof. I've now owned this car for around 5 months and I'm starting to notice a damp problem inside it. Today I'm going to hopefully show you how to trace and solve a problem with the drains on your sunroof or pano roof. So why is it even a big deal? You might think that a little bit of water coming into the car would actually be completely trivial, but in truth water getting in can actually be catastrophic for one of these Cayennes. At worst, you hear about people where their car is completely totaled and they find swimming pools underneath the carpets. And at best, you hear people finding out their head unit is completely conked and very expensive to repair. I don't want to be either of those people. I bought this Cayenne as my ultimate winter daily driver, so it can't be afraid of a little bit of rain. And besides, here in the UK, it's raining more than it isn't, especially at this time of year. So I can't really afford to have this problem for long. I need to fix it ASAP. So let me tell you about the damp symptoms I've been facing, which might help you diagnose your own. Firstly, I noticed underneath the mat, the carpet in the driver's side, and maybe slightly in the passenger side too, but mainly the driver's side, was feeling damp to me, especially in this area here, just next to the A-pillar. But before I even noticed that, the first thing that struck me was the amount of condensation on the inside of the screen on a cold morning. It takes a little while to demist and set off anywhere, which is what caused me to want to look in a bit more detail about what could be causing that, because there shouldn't be any leaks really into the cab. Most sources online will lead you to here, down in the back of the wheel well, behind this fabric type arch liner. This is where the sunroof drain for the front actually terminates, and there'll be a rubber bung tucked up just behind here that's famous for getting clogged up. Same on both sides. Now I already had a look at that. I prized the liner forward, which you can do by removing these, I think, T25s, and just bending the liner out of the way, and you can see straight in. Interestingly, the rubber bungs that are recommended to modify so that they can flow more water were completely missing from mine altogether. I'll show you some photos about what I did find behind the liner. I was surprised to find that those rubber grommets, or bungs, whatever you want to call them, were completely missing from mine. It's evidence that this car has had a previous problem with the sunroof drains and somebody's resorted to removing them altogether, which, looking at how it's designed down there, seems pretty reasonable in helping reduce blockages. The normal recommendation would be to cut the end off those bungs and reinstall them so they'll flow more water. Having checked that there were definitely no blockages at the bottom of the sunroof drain, I then resorted to pouring water into the top of the sunroof drain just to confirm that it flowed all the way out where you expected it to at the bottom and there were no blockages in the middle. And that did work. Lots of the water, almost all of the water, came through and dripped out the bottom behind the liner. After pouring a few litres of water through the sunroof drains, I can confirm that both of them were fully clear, water running all over the floor. It was coming straight through exactly where you expected it to. So why did I still have a damp problem inside the car? This is when I opened the driver's side door and noticed water running down the A-pillar. Right here, where these two plastic panels meet, the water was seeping out of this gap and running down here. And this is where the carpet is always wet. I took a couple of pictures which I'll overlay now so you can see the amount of water I'm talking about. From there, I popped off this panel, which you need to remove this fuse cover panel to access, and found water, evidence of water running down the inside of it. I then popped off the A-pillar and I found evidence of water running down the inside of this as well. So with it being so high up, I think it's safe to assume that the problem must be at the top, possibly with the tray that the sunroof water collects into, or with the connection to the pipe that then feeds down this pillar and into the back of the wheel well. It's worth noting that there are also drains at the rear of the panoramic roof that run down internal to the D-pillars. I can't see any evidence of water at the back, only at the front, so that's what I'm going to be focusing on in this video. I may make another video about the rears, and I may check them just as a precaution later. So now you're up to speed, I'm going to quickly whip these panels off, and I'm going to see if I can get a visual on the pipe on the inside up in that headliner. Really hoping to not need to take the headliner off, because if you've ever worked on cars, taking the headliner off's one of the things you most don't want to do, but we'll see how we go. Go. So this, you need to rotate this 90 degrees with a pair of needle nose pliers, and then it will come out of the slot on the actual A-pillar panel. Right, well, the good news is we do have a problem that I can actually see, which is always nice. It's nice to have something obvious to fix. This rubber pipe has a bit of wet around it, so it's obviously not sealing very well. I imagine what might have happened at some point in the past is some clever person has decided to blow compressed air down the tubes in the tray for the panoramic roof, and now it's obvious that they're only push fit, these rubber pipes, so they've probably blown off, or at least they're no longer sealing. So whilst it's in place and most of the water can pass through it, water has been leaking out of the join. I think what I'm going to do is pull it off altogether, put some silicone sealant around it, push it back on and let it set solid so that it'll seal again. And this is the end, and you can see wet all around it, even crushed in a little bit like it's been not seated very well, and of course it's a bit mucky in there too. So I'm going to put some sealant in that, push it on, make sure it's really nice and solid, let it set. This is what I'm going to use. It's just a bit of RTV silicone gasket maker. I'm going to squeeze a bit out onto this paper, wipe it around, oh god, that's a bit much. I'm going to wipe it around that rubber hose and secure it back onto the barb, the plastic barb that's on that tray. Perfect. Well, that looks extremely promising. I'm certain that's going to seal. So what I'm going to do now is get this side buttoned back up, get the other side done as well, and then I'll leave it overnight just to make sure that silicone's fully set, and then we'll test it. This side pretty similar as well, just as easy to access. Put some silicone in. Back on. Right. Put this back together. Right, it's the next day, so my sealant at the top there should have had plenty of time to set. I've got the car lifted up and I have removed the T20 torque screws and pulled the rear of the wheel well forward on the passenger side, as you can see. I've had a bit of a wipe around in there and this end definitely doesn't seem at all blocked. There's no like packed in leaves or anything like that. Fully clear, quite surprisingly clean actually. So I'm quite confident the bottom is not blocked on this side either. So with that, I'm going to pour some water in the top directly into the drain at the top in the panoramic roof, and we can then observe the water can freely flow out of here and it all looks correct. And in doing that, it'll also enable me to just confirm that there's no wet in the car down the A-pillar or down inside the door jamb, and then I'll be absolutely sure that my fix has worked. Right, I've got a jug of warm water here. I'm going to pour it in and we'll just confirm that it comes out the other side. There's like a tray at the front here and you want to pour it onto this side in front of this guard, just into this gap here. And you don't want to overwhelm it with water. You've got to remember that even in a torrential downpour, water's only coming in through the teeniest slit of a gap, so it will never suddenly get 3 litres poured into it or anything like that. You'll overwhelm it and you probably end up with water inside the car if you did that. So I've got a litre and I'm just going to pour a little bit of it in carefully, he says, going everywhere. Sounds promising. Right, so I spent some time confirming that the water was flowing properly between the front sunroof tray and the wheel well, which it appeared to be. I also got the wheel chucked back on and the arch liner buttoned up as well. When I mentioned about not pouring too much water in at once to overwhelm the design capacity of the sunroof tray, I was correct. Even though I felt like I was pouring it quite slowly, it was still overflowing. I ended up with water inside the car again, which was quite confusing, to be honest. With it poured slower though, that wasn't happening. To do a final confirmation of the fix, the next thing I'm going to do is turn our attention to the front cowl, which is just below the windshield. So to get even more sure of our fix, I want to see if I can get a peek under this plastic cowl, which is at the bottom of the windshield. Underneath there are 2 compartments, one on either side, both of which are where the tube that comes from the panoramic roof terminates. Basically, the tube terminates into this compartment, the water goes into the compartment, and then it flows through that bung, or that hole that was missing bungs on mine, into the wheel well. So there's kind of a break in the line. It's not that what we're looking at from below is the exact end of the tube. Instead of trying to take off this entire plastic cowl, which will involve removing the wiper arms and making sure they go back aligned correctly and all of that, which I can see being a real pain in the ass, there appears to be a way to take the covers off from underneath the bonnet to look at either side. It may involve using a boroscope to actually see down there, but I'd rather do that at this point than try taking the whole cowl off. So let's get the bonnet open. you can see the two covers I'm talking about here, these joins that actually tabs that interlock, and that's on both sides. So I'm hoping if I sneak this rear bonnet seal out of the way, I can potentially take these off. Like I'm right. Perfect. Blimey, you really can't see much on this side thanks to the brake booster. That's definitely a borescope job. Well, I can see a lot more on this side, still not a clear view though, but I can see the top side of that hole I was messing around with in the wheel well. A few dead leaves down there, but actually it's looking really clear. Well, the view through the cowl into those compartments was actually much worse than I anticipated. Even with the borescope, it was very hard to get a visual on the rubber outlets for the tubes into those compartments. Very annoying actually. But I did see them on both sides, and I have poured multiple litres of soapy warm water through these tubes again and can confirm that they're both flowing freely. Now, I was expecting the tubes, the outlets, to have slightly longer rubber ends on them than I actually saw. It's almost like somebody's been in and snipped them before, which actually I was planning to do, but somebody's beaten me to it. It would add up based on the fact those other grommets were completely missing. Having poured all that water in, I have checked the A-pillars and checked the carpet, and none of it's gone into the cab, so I am 100% confident that these front sunroof drains are now flowing freely, and they are absolutely spot on. I have been careful to prevent the water from creeping over to the back, because I'm going to look at the rear drains completely separately, because I've noticed another water ingress problem at the back. This car is certainly testing me. If this has been useful to you, make sure you give us a like. Do subscribe so you can see what happens with the rear drains. I'll obviously explain all that to you just like I have the front. Thank you very much for watching.